Texas A&M defensive coordinator Jay Bateman had a bold take on Texas A&M secondary.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Jay Bateman had a bold take on this Texas A&M secondary that should have all Texas A&M fans excited. Listen, this secondary is going to take a massive leap from what we saw last season to what we're going to see on the field this season. And Coach Jay Bateman, the Aggies defensive coordinator, backed that with this quote. He says, he starts talking about Des Ricks. He says, Des Ricks, we've been really impressed with him. Every practice, he continues to impress, and he is really talented. The corner room is really competitive, and I think it will be a real strength. Then, speaking of Des Ricks, he goes on to say this about the entire secondary. He goes, a shutdown, lockdown secondary. This is on his thoughts on what to expect from the Texas A&M defense. A shutdown, lockdown secondary. I believe we can be the best defense in the league this year. So we're going to run through some quotes from these press conferences. We have some things to talk about with Reuben Owens, with Terry Bussey, with the receiver room. We have a lot to break down from this press conference. But the number one thing that stood out to me from this entire press conference was the confidence that the coaching staff and the players have in this secondary. They seem to feel really good about it. And once again, if you're a Texas A&M football fan and you had to deal with what happened last year in the secondary, I apologize. I was right there with you. I had to watch it happen as well. It was painful. It was frustrating. The secondary was not good last year. It just wasn't good. We saw so many deep balls. We saw so many massive plays really hurt this secondary. And obviously, that lost you some games. I mean, the Alabama game, without question, the Miami game. There were some games where Texas A&M was in it last year. Those two games are great examples. And long touchdowns, long chunk plays because of deep balls beating this secondary just killed this football team. That was the reality. So when Coach Elko took the job as the head coach of Texas A&M, the first thing he had to do, the first issue was, hey, we got to fix this secondary. Got to be better. And what does he do? He goes and absolutely loads up in the transfer portal in the secondary at both safety and corner, really shores up the position to where now you got a mix of some talented young players, some veterans you've had on your roster for a while, and the players you brought in via the portal. It's a great mix in a room that is going to take a massive, massive stride from last year to this year. But once again, what is getting me more and more excited about this stride is the confidence the players and the coaching staff now seem to have in the secondary. This press conference, in my opinion, top to bottom, is the most hyped up press conference I've seen from this staff and from these players. I think people are starting to really buy into what Texas A&M has this year. And there's definitely a lot of excitement for this season to get started because I think this team feels good about how good they're going to be. So let's get right into some more quotes. First thing we have here from Coach Elko, he says, we are about 2 weeks now into fall camp. You are in the grind of it. I think we have made a lot of progress in a lot of areas. We have our last scrimmage tomorrow. So, the key there is going to be stay healthy. in that scrimmage is going to be stay healthy. If you're able to stay healthy in that scrimmage, which I believe that means it was Sunday, yeah. But so the point is, you got to stay healthy in these. That's how you lost Reuben Owens. You do not want to lose any other talented players in the scrimmage. Coach Oko then goes on to talk about Reuben Owens and says, unfortunately, he suffered a foot injury. He'll be out for an extended period of time, most likely the season. That was an unfortunate thing that happened last weekend. I mean, once again, we had the news. The news was already broke, but this quote from Coach Oko kind of confirmed that you were waiting on this to happen. This one's tough. It'll be interesting. Does that quote leave the door open to him maybe coming back for a couple weeks? Maybe, but then even if that happens, the way I look at injuries like that, it's, is if he comes back, let's say he's healthy for the Auburn game or the Texas game, or, you know what I mean? At that point, is it even worth throwing him out there? You know what I mean? Like, at that point, Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels are probably playing well, probably doing good things. So it's like, do you throw in a guy who hasn't played football in months and is still not 100%, probably doesn't have their full legs underneath them? So if based on that, if I had to leave a prediction, I would say that you're going to see Ruben Owens miss the full season, but the window is there and the opportunity is there for a very late into season return for the star running back for the Aggies. Another massive talking point of this press conference was the only special teams. So Coach Elko said Tyler White is doing a really good job, the punter for the Aggies. Randy Bond has had a phenomenal camp, still a battle to see who will be the kickoff guy, so that'll be interesting. And then Coach Elko says Terry Bussey, Moose Muhammad, and Cyrus Allen are all in the mix to be back there as return men. To me, there is no world where Terry Bussey should not be back there returning kicks, returning everything kicked at him. I've talked about it. The kid is absolutely electric with the football in his hands. There is no excuse why you should not have every possible opportunity to put the football in his hands, especially in a kickoff role where, hey, if he muffs one, whatever, stuff happens, you pick it up and you move on to play another day. Punts are a little different. If you muff those, it's a little bit harder to recover. So, but still, point being, Terry Bussey is going to be electric with the football in his hands. Not a debate. Not something that's up for debate. So get the ball to him in any way possible. And I think the staff's going to go out of their way to do that. So here's a really interesting quote, and this will likely be something we talk about in more depth this week and kind of lead with. But Coach Elko talks about Scooby Williams. He says, Scooby Williams has had a really good summer and learned a lot. He has been very consistent in this camp. He's in a tight competition for 2, 3, and 4. So once again, precisely how we predicted this room to break down. The linebacker room is how it's breaking down. Obviously, Terry York's your guy. The competition for 2, 3, and 4, and exactly who we thought it was between is who it's between. Solomon DeShields, Damian Sanford, and then, of course, Scooby Williams. One of those three guys is going to be LB2, one's going to be LB3, and one's going to be LB4. And I still think that's up for that's an open competition, which I love. I mean, hey, we're now 31st. We're now 12 days away from the first game of the season, and some of these things are still competition, and I think that is very, very exciting, because that's a room where I really feel good about those four guys with York included in that group. I love how. Listen, even Sanford did a lot well in the spring game. I mean, there's a lot in this room to be excited about. Bateman, not Bateman's the DC, who was Scooby Williams' coach before, but Scooby Williams is a guy with a ton of upside. It's still in there. He's still got a lot of potential inside of him. Then you bring in a guy into Shields who has played a lot of college football, and then you've still got Sanford who's been in the program. And I think is a guy who eventually is going to find his role and be the guy. So that to me is very exciting. We've got some more quotes to run through. One of the more interesting quotes to me is Jay Bateman talking about Cassius Howell. It sounds like he's going to be a star for this team. This is a great quote to run through. And Coach Elko talking about quarterbacks Connor Weigman and Marcel Reed. We will run through those quotes and break down more of what the players and coaching staff had to say coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel is, of course, the partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. So a player that we heard a lot about positively in this press conference was Cassius Howell. So Jay Bateman had this to say about Cassius Howell. He is tremendous. He is a unique player. It can do a lot of different things. He's a really important part of the defense, and he will play a ton. Glad to have him. You know, he's going to be a guy who I think could sneakily give you 5 sacks this year. You know, I mean, he's an edge rusher. It's what he's here to do. He comes in from Bowling Green, a guy that really had a good year last year. I think that's going to transfer to the SEC. I think that's going to be how he is as a player, top to bottom. I'm very excited about Cassius Howell this year. I don't have any concerns, frankly, about him going from, one conference to another. I think he's going to be great in the SEC. I think he's got the frame to be an elite pass rusher. And I think he's going to be a guy that can just, close his eyes, put his nose in the ground, and go get after the quarterback. So I'm really excited to see how he plays this year, because he's a guy I've been high on since he committed in the portal months and months ago. So Coach Elko had this to say about Terry Bussey. He says, he is a kid that has a lot of value. We have talked about his flexibility. We have moved him around a little bit. We have where he ultimately ends up still a little bit up in the air. We have another quote about Bussey from Collin Klein. Let's read this. He says, we will be able to move him around quite a bit. He has adapted already. His skill sets are very diverse. He has great route running ability, ball skills, and is big and physical enough to have him in the backfield. I mean, the amount of things that you're going to be able to do as a coach with a player like Terry Bussey is absolutely insane. You can do so much with him. He's so talented. He can do everything on the football field. And players like that don't come very often. You just don't see guys like Terry Bussey a lot, ladies and gentlemen. You don't see guys who are able to do it all on the football field and are just all around that talented. And when they come, you got to make sure you utilize them well. I think the coaching staff is going to make sure that they do not waste Terry Bussey. They're going to get him on the field in every possible capacity. Listen, Terry Bussey is going to be used on offense. At first, it was like maybe. Is he? How are they going to use him? I'm not sure. No, Terry Bussey will be used this year on offense. That is not with no shadow of a doubt in my mind. He's going to be out there playing some offense this year. So I'm really excited to see the kind of role he has, because his upside, as I always say, is through the roof. He's going to be an NFL player. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a top 10 pick in the NFL when we get there here in 3 years or whatever. So Coach Elko had this to say about Connor Weigman. He says, Connor Weigman is healthy. He is really comfortable with the system now. He gets better and better each time he gets out there. He's a winner. Behind him, Marcel Reed is a great athlete. He has the ability to make plays and has a big arm. Good to hear. A little shout out to Marcel Reed. I am really excited to see the depth chart and see who is QB2. I cannot wait to see that. I think it's going to be thoroughly interesting to see who ends up being QB2. Is it Marcel Reed? I don't know, but that's going to be a fun thing to see because once again, I mean, that I believe Connor Weigman's going to the NFL after this year. So QB2 might end up being QB1 next year. So that is going to be interesting to see. Coach Bateman had this to say about Scooby Williams. He said, I have been with him for 3 years. This is the most consistent he has been. Physically, he's in good shape. It's good to hear. Once again, Scooby is competing for this role as linebacker too. So it's good to hear his coach has been with him for a long, long time, and now is A&M's defensive coordinator saying some positive things. I like this quote. Coach Bateman had this to say about Coach Elko's leadership. In today's day and age, with all of the transient nature of the roster, I think he has done an unbelievable job. You love hearing your peers, talk good about you. This is a big quote here. Coach Klein says about the running back room, Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels are heading point in Ruben Owens' absence. My heart breaks for Ruben. I am not worried about the position. Will be good. Same thing I said all week last week. I feel confident in this Texas A&M running back room. I am not worried about how good this room's going to be. I still top to bottom feel really good about it. You hate losing a talented player, but once again, this is why depth matters. You never want to lose a player. You really don't want to lose a player before the season starts because that means now, okay, you got one less guy the whole year, but it's a deep, talented room, and that is very, very exciting. Coach Klein had this to say about the offense. The biggest thing we are working on is consistency. Connor Weigman has really stepped up and put some balls in tight windows. I've been really pleased. I think that Coach Klein is a no-nonsense type of guy. You know what I mean? I think that he doesn't just talk to talk. You know what I mean? I think when he says something, he really, really means it. And he had a lot of positive things to say in this press conference. So I think Collin Klein is gaining confidence in his offense before the season starts, and that is very good for the Aggies. I've got some more quotes, including one on the tight end room that is really interesting in the fact that is maybe these roles may be a little different than we imagined. We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So this quote about the tight end room is an interesting one, and we'll get into why. So Coach Klein says, Trey Watson is doing a great job, running great routes and has great ball skills. Theo Mellon Orstrom has done great things at the point of attack. Donovan Green and Shane Calhoun have done nice things. I think we have a good mix of skill sets. It's going to be a part of what we do. So I've talked about how I believe Coach Klein is incredible using the tight end position. There's no debate to that. As a huge Donovan Green guy, this quote, I'm not going to say scares me because once again, Donovan Green is still getting back into the swing of things. Coming back off an ACL tear is not easy to do. Being able to come back from that and cut and do different things like that, it's just not easy to do. That's just the reality here. But I mean, the whole, talking about Trey Watson first and Theo, saying he's doing great things, but then saying Donovan Green is doing nice things. It's like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to go, well, what's the difference in nice to great? But the fact that, we got a list of Trey Watson, we hear about Theo, and then it's Donovan Green, that kind of just freaks me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But we'll probably get into that deeper we'll get deeper into that this week. So I love this quote because I think it says a lot about Collin Klein, and it says a lot about this staff, and it says a lot about this team. So Collin Klein, talking about installing the offense, he says everything is in. Everything has been in. We have pushed them hard and built as broad a foundation as we can. I'm really proud of how they have attacked it. I am really excited for what this group is capable of. Why I love this is very simple. I think that it is difficult and it is important to be able to instill a new offense. It's not something that takes 2 seconds. It's not easy to learn. It would be like me studying for an organic chemistry test. It would be very, very hard. And in all honesty, I would not do very well unless I studied hard and still wouldn't do well. But all kidding aside, this team learning this offense, and I know we're 2 weeks to kick off. And so I'm not saying like they should have learned it by now, but they have. And that's very exciting to me. And listen, now that you've got all that down pat, these next 2 weeks, you're just practicing, you're getting better. You're not worried about the little things. You're worried about the big picture things. And you're not worried about the big picture things. You're worried about the little things. And that's exciting. You instill those little details now instead of worrying about, oh, we got to figure out the offense. That is exciting to me. Coach Klein had this to say about the wide receivers. He says, we will be able to play a good number of guys, anywhere from 4 to 6. We'll see time. There will be 3 to 4 taking the majority of the load, sprinkling in based on how things go. That is a quote that we're not going to dive into right now because I'm going to dive into that later in the week. Who are those 6 guys going to be? Who are those players going to be? Who's going to play the significant roles? That is going to be the conversation that we break down later in the week. Connor Weigman had a lot of great things to say as well. He was talking about, the running back room. So he says, Coach Troop calls it a stable for a reason. Le'Veon Moss, Mar Daniels, and EJ Smith can all go. I am ready to go to work with them. Good thing here, once again, when you lose your running back, it's great to hear that you got talented guys. Connor Weigman's, I love this. It's been a long time coming, and I can't wait to get out there on August 31st. Dude's just a competitor. Dude just wants to be out there. He wants to win football games. I'm really excited for him after the injury. I mean, he's pumped up. We're all pumped up to see it. Connor Weigman's going to have a massive season. I like this, talking about the vibe around the program. It's been awesome. The brotherhood we have built in a short period of time, we have done a really great job of that. You got to be a tight team to succeed on the field, and it sounds like, according to Connor Weigman, that's the case here. So they're working Tariq Chappelle in a little bit at nickel, and he says how he feels doing that. Of course, I played nickel my sophomore and junior years. I feel very comfortable. I like nickel. It's good to hear. Obviously, we knew that he's played there before, but it's good to hear that he's happy there. He's comfortable there. And then Tariq Chappelle on what excites him for the season. The players and the depth we have players that can play. I absolutely love that from him. And then this is what he had to say about entering the portal. He, because Tariq Chappelle entered the portal and came back. He said, I wanted to see if I needed a fresh start. Once Elko got the job, I knew I was coming back. He was the DC my freshman year. Tariq Chappelle on Coach Bateman. He is so energetic. He will coach you hard. That's what I need this year. It's good to hear. You want a coach who's willing to really get after people. So here's a quote from Scooby Williams about the defensive line. He says, the D-line is crazy. There is a bunch of NFL potential on it. That's great to hear. Scooby Williams talks about competing with Damian Sanford and Solomon Shields. It's great to go out and compete. Surrounding yourself with great people can only elevate yourself and the team. Love that. Healthy competition is a huge part of football. So that's more great stuff to hear. This is a good one too. We'll call it a day on this quote from Scooby Williams. Where did he get the first name from? When I was younger, here's the deal. Based on this quote, you might need to start calling me Scooby Stefaniak. When I was younger, I used to eat a bunch of Scooby snacks, the gummy ones. So did I. So you might want to start calling me Scooby Stefaniak because my goodness. Here's the deal. If I ever get to interview Scooby Williams, I'm going to tell him, listen, like we could have a one-on-one who can eat more fruit Scooby snacks, because I'm not losing that. I'm just not. That's just the reality. So that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. Football's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. It is almost here. And listen, you're not going to find someone more excited than me. That's going to do it for today's episode. Like I said, hope everyone has an outstanding rest of their day today. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.